Released in March of 2017, Breath of the Wild would see speedruns come in the day of release, with runners more or less finding a quick path to Ganon to defeat him in just under 2.5 hours. Since those early runs, many game-breaking glitches were discovered that pushed the time lower, culminating in a run that's finished in just over 25 minutes. So let's jump into it. This is Breath of the Wild 80% Explained Quick. Breath of the Wild isn't your typical Zelda game. Aside from shrine quests in the starting area, you're not restricted from how you progress the game, as Hyrule Castle is available to you after leaving the Great Plateau. This left runners with 3 problems to solve in order to reach the final boss quickly. How do we get off the Great Plateau as fast as possible? How do we get to Hyrule Castle as fast as possible? What weapons will we use to fight Ganon, and how do we fight him? Let's have a look at these questions and see what tricks and strategies runners use to solve these problems. Before we can worry about getting off of the Great Plateau, we have to get out of the cave with the Sheikah Slate, and it's done with a complex clip trick. After acquiring the slate, you can run up a wall in the corner, then position your camera at a precise angle while spamming the slate to clip outside of the small dungeon. The clip happens because in this state, Link tries to stand up but doesn't have room, so the game pushes him through the wall. It's not the only clip used in the speedrun. To get off of the Great Plateau, players are required to clear 4 shrines to unlock the paraglider. The shrines aren't unlocked as soon as you leave the cave. You're required to activate them at the Sheikah Tower before you can gain access to them. But by using another glitch called shield clipping, runners can get into the shrines before they're unlocked, saving a huge amount of time. With this information, the first problem we have of getting off the Great Plateau can be restated as, how do we travel between the 4 shrines as fast as possible? And the next glitches will answer that for us. Once you're out of the starting shrine, the next glitch is likely one you can pull off without much practice: whistle sprinting. Allowing you to sprint at almost full speed without depleting stamina, whistle sprinting is very convenient for covering small distances quickly. Normally when holding the sprint button, your stamina bar will drain as you hold down B, but since we're speedrunning, it's no surprise that runners found a way to exploit this mechanic. By holding down the whistle button and tapping B, you can run at nearly full speed without consuming any stamina, all while Link remains in the whistle animation. This technique doesn't run Link at top velocity, however, so the optimal strategy here is to sprint normally until you've consumed almost all of your stamina, and then switch to whistle sprinting, as your bar will recharge while you're using this trick. This is used heavily throughout the run, as runners don't have time to tame a horse or visit the stable, but we're about to see even greater methods of transportation that runners have found through glitches. Once you're out of the starting area, you'll want to run to the Oa Dayam Shrine, as it contains a valuable rune to the speedrun, the Stasis Rune. When used, Stasis will freeze an object in place and store its kinetic energy, so if an object is moving before it's frozen, it will resume moving in that direction once the effect wears off. There is one exception. If the player applies force to the object in stasis with a weapon, the kinetic energy will change direction to be in line with where the player applied the force. Stasis is an intended game mechanic, but players use this rune to store energy on objects so that they can climb on top of them and get carried along for the ride. With this glitch, they're able to get up hills and buildings much quicker, as they bypass having to climb or go around large obstacles. When it comes to Hyrule, this is one of the most important methods to get around fast, but it's not the only one. While stasis launching is convenient, it's limited by 2 things. There aren't always large items around to launch into the air, and it's a bit time consuming to set up. But that's where bullet time bouncing comes in. Bullet time bounce, or BTB, is the fastest known method of traveling in the overworld, and they're quite technical, so let's look at the mechanics of bullet time to get a better understanding. If you're falling through the air, either by quitting out from the glider or jumping from up high, the game will enter a slow motion mode called bullet time when you take aim with your bow. While in bullet time, your stamina is consumed, so there is a time limit to how long you can sustain it for. The key thing about bullet time for speedrunners is that slow motion effects aren't applied equally to all objects, with some interactions being slowed down improperly. Interesting enough, when they're returned to normal time, the game speeds them up by 20-fold. To perform the bullet time bounce, you need 3 things: an enemy in a ragdoll animation, your shield, and bullet time. The ragdolling enemy is important because it happens to be one of the things that isn't affected properly by bullet time. So let's look at the setup. The first thing you'll want to do is position yourself above the enemy, then perform a shield jump so you're put in the shield surf animation. Once this is done, take out your bow to engage bullet time. Landing on an enemy while shield jumping will put it in ragdoll animation as soon as you land on it, provided that enemy is a red bokoblin. Once you've landed on the enemy, you'll want to cancel bullet time, and if done correctly, you'll be sent flying, depending on where on its body you land. The force applied to Link will be proportional to what frame you quit bullet time on. The longer you wait, the less potent the bullet time bounce will be. BTBs are used early in the run, before the player has unlocked the paraglider, so you might be wondering, how do they survive from the fall? There are 2 ways: falling into deep water, or using the fall damage cancel glitch. Fall damage cancels aren't as complex as the bullet time bounce, and only require that you have a weapon or shield equipped. If executing the trick with a weapon, hold the R button to throw as you're falling. Just before hitting the ground, let go of R and then unequip your weapon. If done in the correct manner, you will land without taking a point of damage. If you're using a shield, you can swap out the weapon unequip with a shield unequip, which conveniently you already have a shield out since you used it to initiate the bullet time bounce. With BTBs and fall damage cancels in your glitch repertoire, you're equipped to quickly make your way between the remaining shrines, grabbing Cryonis, Magnesis, and remote bombs. This solves the first problem of getting off the plateau, as we're now rewarded with the paraglider, but not before using another movement trick: wind bombs. When you exit the Jabay's shrine, there is a wall blocking your path to the Temple of Time, and with no objects for stasis or enemies for BTB immediately available, we're faced with a problem. How do we get there quickly? The answer is a glitch involving the rune from the last shrine we just exited: bombs. If the components for the other travel glitches aren't available, runners can use a trick called wind bombs. These take advantage of a physics interaction between 2 bombs and can be used to cover short distances very fast. They have only 2 components: the bombs themselves, and can you guess the other? It's bullet time. Bomb interactions are another example of things that bullet time doesn't affect properly, with wind bombs being made possible by its good graces, or game-breaking bugs, however you want to look at it. You'll want to place a bomb next to something you can get some height off of. For technical purposes, the square bombs work the best. Once you enter bullet time, you'll place another bomb, and just after detonation, you'll want to cancel bullet time. If done properly, the explosion will send the second bomb into you, causing Link to be shot along the same vector as the explosive force shooting that bomb. With a quick wind bomb and then a nifty stasis launch up to the top of the Temple of Time, we're now armed with the paraglider and can make our way to Hyrule Castle, which raises the second problem: how do we get there? As if the game developers were aware of bullet time bounces, they placed a single enemy below the tower on the Temple of Time. And now that we have the paraglider, we can extend the distance of the BTB to reach the castle in one go. Since we speedran the answer to problem 2, let's break question 3 into 2 parts. What will we fight Ganon with, and how do we fight Ganon? What we fight Ganon with is fairly straightforward. Since we can't use a tree branch, durable weapons are a priority, along with ingredients for a dish that will buff Link's attack power. We solve part of the food fiasco by using an amiibo to summon fish as soon as we land at the castle. Then it's time to head inside and grab some items. By sneak striking a royal guard, you're able to kill it without starting a fight. You'll want its items before stocking up on bomb arrows in the corner. You'll make your way to a ruined banquet hall from here, where you'll wreak havoc on some more royal guards while grabbing the final ingredients. The objective this time is to put the fish summoned with the amiibo to use, as you'll cook up fish skewers that give a massive bonus to attack, to aid in the boss rush just around the corner. Once we've gathered our weapons and food, there are just 2 wind bombs to perform before we're ready to start the Ganon fight. So let's answer the second half of question 3. How we're fighting the final boss. Runners don't complete the Divine Beast dungeons, which means they have to fight all 4 Calamity Ganon Phantoms, but there are tricks to be used along this boss rush. Windblight Ganon is the first boss you will encounter, but there is a glitch that skips the fight entirely. The setup and explanation are quite technical. In its basic components, you're firing an arrow into the boss room at a specific angle, and walking into the encounter as soon as you release the shot. If you skip the first cutscene, then watch the second, the boss will shake while it plays if you've executed the trick properly, with damage registering during this cutscene. Once the fight starts, it ends, and you're off to the next boss. You're stuck fighting the other Phantoms, but with some nice combos, you're into the second last fight, Calamity Ganon. Calamity Ganon is riddled with RNG. The only strategy runners have here is to be prepared to react to anything Ganon does, with the worst pattern being when he climbs up on the wall. If he does this, you need to execute a bomb arrow shot to get him down, which is difficult to do as you don't have access to bullet time. There are too many patterns to cover in this video, but Limcube made a great tutorial on this fight that I'll link below. Of note is that Phase 2 Ganon has a higher chance of going to the wall, which puts his RNG heavily against the player. Once Calamity Ganon is defeated, there's only Dark Beast Ganon left, and it's as close to an auto-scroller as you'll get in a 3D game. You need to shoot him with 7 light arrows to open the eye on top of his body. Once it's open, just one more shot separates you from the end of the run. That's it. You've just seen the glitches used to complete Breath of the Wild in the any % category. But the runs didn't start out this way. Many early glitches were made obsolete or morphed by what you see today. And if you'd like to see their story, let me know down in the comments. Did you know that Super Mario Kart has records that were held for over 4,000 days? Or that Dragon Quest III runners use a hot plate on their NES to glitch a max level party? If you'd like to check those videos out, click the links provided. And if you want to support the channel, consider subscribing to Patreon or following on Twitch and Twitter. Until next time.